My name is Gina Miller, and I've come to prominence, if you like, in the UK in that I brought probably the biggest constitutional case in UK law for 200 years, in that I took the government to court to remind them that they couldn't bypass Parliament when it came to triggering Article 50 to leave the European Union.
Now you're here now and you're very well known, you're prominent politically and otherwise, but your early days were in Guyana. Could you just tell me a little bit about you yourself, growing up in Guyana, your sort of family and where you lived and so on?
I have the fondest of memories of growing up in Guyana, just because of not just because of the open air and the freedom that I had as a child. And I remember things like the smell of the mango tree, or sitting on the white bench when my dad came home from work and would brush my hair, and us talking about politics, in that I was very fortunate and I grew up in a house where we spoke about everything. We discussed not just academia, because obviously good old Guyana education was everything. And my brother went to Queen's College and I went to St. Gabriel's. But we talked. I think I was very fortunate with both my parents in that they were very worldly and had a real strong sense of community and justice and right and wrong. So from the earliest of ages, we talked about those things as a family around the table, as I said, in the garden, on the hammock in the balcony. We would talk about what was going on in the papers. We would be talking about what was happening at Burnham House and all the things we remember, and Viola and her whole let's make new products to boost Guyana, all those sorts of things. As little children, because I'm one of 5, we talked about very openly as a family, and I valued that. And it's very much something that I think empowered me to be the person I am today. But I think there was something in the water in Guyana. I think there's something about Guyanese women, in that our strength of personality and our strength of character and our bravery, if you like, comes from being able to combine our heads and our hearts, and being able to think in a very lateral way and be, if you like, hard-nosed when it needs to be, and soft when we need to be. And that's something that I value from my mother, my parenting, but I think just something about Guyana, it was just there in the water.
Tell me about little Gina. Was the Brexit Queen there at all? You said you were one of 5, yes? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's interesting when people say, how did I become this brave person I am today, nature and nurture? I think it's a bit of both, in that I was always somebody who didn't just take the path. 3, 4 years old, at our front gate, there used to be kids in the street playing, and I remember my mother used to get very cross with me because they thought I lost everything at school, my shoes, my clothes, my sweets, whatever. But I didn't. I couldn't understand why I had it and they didn't, so I'd be giving them away. And we had licks in those days. We would get in trouble for doing that. And I never told my parents until I was an adult that that's what I was doing, because I just thought it was wrong. So I think this sense of justice that I've had, a really gut instinct for right and wrong and for wanting to help other people, that's who I've always been.
You've spent your formative years here in the UK, and obviously now that you're so well known for Brexit, we know and love you here. But what about Guyana? What's the connection that you still have there?
Well, when my father was alive, I still had a very strong connection with Guyana, and I have from the interior, in that I've taken my family over quite a few times now, and we go and we've been to see Diane Turk, we've been to see the otters, we go and see the lilies and the ponds, and we've gone to see the Amerindian villages, because I want them to know the heart and soul of Guyana. I have to say, when I'm in Georgetown, I don't really recognize it. It's not the place that I remember growing up. The thing I feel sad about is that intellectually, there isn't the real strength of learning that I thought Guyana was so famous for. And actually I benefit from, and my family benefited from, my siblings did, is that I don't see that same sort of hunger for learning and hunger for wanting to do something and do the right thing. And that I feel is a shame. I think it's probably gone, for my liking, far too commercial. We're being driven by money and profit rather than people.
Now you've shaken up the establishment here and the media here. What would you do, and how would you shake up Guyana?
Oh, shaking up Guyana, that's an interesting one. I think when a country is wounded by division, and that's division in its people, you have to create a different sort of narrative, which is one of inclusiveness and one of how do we put our country and our future and our children first, and not the color of our skin or the religion with which we practice in our homes. I think that message of healing and the country and what we can achieve together would be a powerful message I would probably like to write about more in Guyana and talk about, and say that maybe other people could talk about.
Now, this huge Diaspora conference is currently on here in Guyana. Is it something that you would think about returning to Guyana to help with some of the rebuilding?
I've looked at some of the projects in the interior, and I've looked at some of the projects in the homes, in some of the children's homes. And I have to say, what puts me off is either the bureaucracy or the inability to understand that it needs to be everybody together. The collaboration that needs to be there to solve problems is something I see a bit of a pushback, and I've experienced myself when I've sought to, and this idea, again, going back to my thing about money, it's what's in it for me. Helping other people, what's in it for you is to make you feel better, that you've left a mark in the world, not for you to feel better because you've profited it from it. And so if I felt that there was a genuine turning point in the emotion and the consciousness of Guyana, I'd be far more committed to it. But I don't feel it's there right now.
At the moment, the crown you're wearing as the Brexit Queen, is that your last legacy, or is there something more to come?
Well, I've been a transparency campaigner in the UK for nearly a decade now. I have taken on the city and all the ills that led to the financial services crisis in 2008, 2009. I've done the same in the charity sector. I'm very critical about the lack of scrutiny and accountability in the third sector. But Brexit was just, it brought me to the fore, but it doesn't define me. What I believe defines me is the ability to stand up and speak out and use my voice and my actions and my conscience when I see something is wrong. I'm not afraid to stand up and ask the awkward questions, and I will carry on doing so, because globally and from a democratic point of view, I think we are in trouble. And we need brave people throughout the world to just stand up and ask very simple, honest questions.
You are clearly a very brave woman, because you've had to put up with some really nasty press, some really nasty trolls, and some things that most people would not have had to put up with, which I wouldn't mind you mentioning some of that just very briefly. Where's the strength come from?
People ask me where my strength comes from. I just can't imagine being any other way. And I don't see it as strength. I think it's my weaknesses and my flaws that makes me who I am, because I know my limits, but I know what I can also achieve. But I think sometimes if you only see one side of your character, it limits what you can do. I know my warts and flaws and all. Therefore, I know where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are. And one of the strengths I have is the fact that I don't care what other people think about me. If I think I'm doing something for the right reason, I will stand up, because I want someone to knock me down if they have an answer to me. They can tell me I'm wrong for whatever reason. I dare to challenge them to knock me down. And they don't tend to. What they do is attack me personally, and then I know I'm right. Because if you don't have an intellectual answer to my question, and the only answer you have is a personal attack, then I'm asking the right question. So I have an ability to turn things around as well. But some of the abuse has shocked me. It's not the Britain I thought I lived in. The racist abuse, the misogynistic abuse, the fact that as a coloured woman, I have no right to speak. I have no right to ask questions. I can obviously only successful because I married a rich man. How could I possibly be bright enough or strong enough to be successful in business? All of these are myths that I thought we had dismissed. And every part of my life has been ransacked. My business has been attacked. My family, my children are threatened. I now live under security. I don't go out very much, but these are all prices worth paying, because hopefully the world becomes a better place from where we're going for my children. If I can help a little bit of sunshine break through the clouds, then that's the place I can leave, knowing that my children, my grandchildren, will be able to go out and walk in that sunshine.
Gina Miller, thank you.